messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Happy Martin Luther King Day. We all took a break yesterday, federal holiday. Back at it here behind the microphone on this Tuesday afternoon. And you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. It'll get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation, as well as our text line. That's up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And if you text it like you do anything else, it appears here on the screen in the studio in real time as I broadcast from the Cameo studio. So the Cameo cam is on, which means you can watch and listen through streaming on the station's Facebook page, YouTube channel, my social media, Joe Mangi Show. And that's X and Facebook and Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and yes, Rumble, as well as streaming live to the TuneIn app like thousands of other radio stations do. So if you don't have that, it takes seconds to download. Punch in WCRN. You're going to see our cool logo here. Do me a favor, hit the like button. We know you're there, and we're very easy to find, or tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that as well. Teddy behind the glass flying the board today. He'll get you set up and into the studio for the two-way talking conversation at 508-871-7000. So a lot to talk about, as always. I think we're going to tackle this first, this Minnesota church service. This was pretty disgusting in a lot of ways. The fact that even happened. Look, it's the core principle in America here is we protect the right to protest, and America also protects the right to worship. And when these collide, the Constitution doesn't say might makes right. It draws lines, especially around private property, religious liberty, and of course, public safety, guys. So over the weekend, this group of anti-ICE protesters entered a worship service at City's Church in the Twin Cities, or the Twin Cities area, and disrupted this service with chants, including ICE out and Justice for Nay good. Now, whatever you think about immigration enforcement, the fact pattern matters here because it moves the fight from the street, where protest is traditionally conducted, into a sanctuary, where ordinary people are exercising the right to worship in peace. And these protesters' stated justification was that one of the pastors is connected to ICE leadership locally. So the church lists a pastor named David Easterwood. And that name matches the name of ICE's acting field office director in St. Paul. Now, I know Fox reached out to ICE to verify whether those are the same individual. I mean, Jasmine Crockett should know that there's more than one person with the same name in the country when she utterly had that real cluster with the Epstein thing she did. But here's the thing. I mean, you should verify this stuff. That verification point is very crucial. And if you care about due process and basic fairness, you don't treat name matching and social media claims as a verdict and act upon that. You first verify. Then you debate the policy. So they may not even have it right. But even if they did, so what? What has that got to do with the protesting that you're doing? You don't cross that into a church and interrupt a service. And of course, we've got a constitutional framework here too. The First Amendment protects speech and assembly broadly, very broadly. But it does not create a right to occupy private property at will, nor does it create a right to disrupt worship services. The same sloppiness with protests, right, that we see that anything to the left, anything is permissible and acceptable under the guise of protest. Throwing things at federal officers, blocking their way, boxing them in, spitting at them, doxing them for the purpose of bringing harm to them and their family. That's all acceptable because they think it's a blanket protection under protest. It's not. You've crossed lines. Protest can be lawful. Trespass and intimidation can be unlawful. Some legal commentary has been very explicit about that distinction, calling the church a protected space and noting that criminal exposure can attach when actions move from expression into prohibited conduct. We've been talking about that for God knows how long in this show. You have all the protected rights, constitutional rights to peacefully protest. Yes, it does say peacefully protest. I think Cuomo, I think, is the one who said, where does it say peaceful? In the Constitution, it says it, guy. And you can't do anything, and you can't violate people's space and violate people's safety and civil liberties and rights because you think you're right, that your protest is mightier than their rights. That's not how that works. That is why federal response matters here. So you got Attorney General Pam Bondi, Assistant Attorney General Emmett Dillon, publicly stated that the Department of Justice is investigating the incident, as they should. Now, you can disagree with the administration on immigration policy and still recognize that a government has a duty to protect citizens' civil rights, including the free exercise of religion and peaceful assembly in a place of worship. There's also a second layer here, right? It's very easy to miss in the pattern, in the partisan shouting that we have going on. This isn't only about the person the protesters were seeking. It's about everyone else who was there. And the congregants trying to worship, families were present, children. Now, the allegations that the confrontation continued outside, including claims that some protesters followed people into the parking lot and attempted to block vehicles from leaving, which is a tactic we've seen them use over and over again. And you can't, at will, restrict people's freedom of movement, too, by the way. I mean, now you're dangerously close to false imprisonment, kidnapping, and other charges. Now, if that's true, that's a different category of conduct than chanting on a sidewalk. It's not persuasive politics here. It's coercion. It's coercion in the enemy of free society, no matter which side is doing it. It's wrong and is not acceptable and should not be acceptable. Now, William Kelly, known online as the Woke Farmer, that's his handle, and there's allegations here that he's from Washington, D.C., and there are congregants that he has repeatedly harassed worshipers at Christ Church. This is where Pete Hegseth goes in Washington. Investigators see repeated targeting of worship settings. They will view it less as spontaneous protest and more as intimidation tactic aimed at families and community institutions. When you're traveling from state to state and area to area, attacking churches and congregations, again, you've crossed another threshold. Different kind of behavior. Immigration enforcement, guys, is a legitimate subject for protest if you feel that way. It really is. It's fine. You can protest. You might be better off to go the actual legal route of trying to get Congress to enact changes. After all, the powers that in any federal agency has and exercises has come from federal statute, which was passed by some Congress in the past and signed into law by a president. So Congress does have the final ability to set the purpose and roles of these federal agencies, including ICE. And I think maybe they're just frustrated that just standing on a sidewalk with a sign, although it's perfectly legal, it's all of that, how much change does that actually affect? So they get frustrated and they cross that threshold into criminal activity. But a worship service is not acceptable venue for political invasion. Just isn't. And if you want a constitutional society, you deem standards that apply equally. Verify facts, respect due process, and don't substitute mob pressure for lawful process. Individuals are smart. Mobs are stupid. And if laws were broken, trespass, disruption, intimidation, then consequences should follow. And that's not politics. That's just the rule of law. So are we still a country where disagreement is handled through lawful channels and free speech in appropriate forums? Or are we normalizing the idea that political grievances justify taking over other people's civil liberties? In the one place they should be safest. Doing all this research and reading and getting ready, I'm thinking back a little bit to history in the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Known as the Enforcement Act. And that was designed to combat the violent actions of the Ku Klux Klan and protect civil rights of African Americans during Reconstruction. And it allowed the federal government to intervene against groups that conspired to deprive citizens of their rights, including the use of federal troops to enforce law. All right, folks, we got to take our first break here on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. What say you on this situation, both in the Twin Cities and just protests in general and the ICE and what is going on there? You can also text us at 617-297-8388. But we'll take a quick break. We'll come back for segment 2 in 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing, fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing make sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
Tired of rush doctor's visits? Are you finding it tough to get a doctor's appointment? And when you finally do, are you in and out before you know it? Did your doctor take the time to ask about your diet or exercise routine? Did they order the right lab tests? And how do you know if these are the labs you need and how to interpret them? Discover the freedom of ordering your own lab tests. Phil George, clinical biochemist and health coach, can guide you on which blood tests to order. Customized to your personal health goals, Phil's extensive training ensures that you receive the best advice on interpreting your lab results and understanding their implications. Plus, by ordering labs on your own, you'll pay far below insurance prices. Looking for an alternative to conventional medicine? Phil George can help you navigate your health journey with a personalized approach. Just email Phil at philgeorge@charter.net for a free consultation. Your health and well-being are within reach, and it starts with the right guidance. Don't miss this opportunity to take control of your health. Reach out today and embark on a path to better health with Phil George.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Second segment of the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here at AM 830 WCRN. And of course, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. So what we watched go on over the weekend in the Twin Cities. I mean, this is just part of this bigger picture of this disruption. I don't want to rehash the Renee Good situation, but the bottom line is there. They did not follow lawful orders. She was detained and told to get out of the vehicle. Instead of doing that, she attempted to flee. And in the process, she drove at and hit a federal officer who fired in self-protection. And she lost her life for this. Yes, but it was justified because of her actions. And I think all the investigations, in my opinion, will bear that out. And I see the left trying to, put this in using very sloppy terms that ICE thugs murdered her. It doesn't fit the definition of murder. That's not what murder is. And that will work out. We've got these organized, and again, once they're organized, are they really? I mean, you can organize a protest, but if you start paying individuals and then traveling them across state lines and things like that, and where do you cross the line from protests and organizing protests to insurrection and purposefully causing this? I mean, where do you guys draw the line on this? Now, if you're on a certain side of it, you don't draw the line. Anything's okay. But I see that on the left a lot, the justification, because the arrogance of we got the right position and we're right and everybody else is just so stupid and they don't get it. We got to re-educate them. Maybe we should put them in education camps. Right? And they're blaming, paint everybody with that without talking about the issue. So where and when do you draw the line that these protesters have crossed over to? But protesting does not allow you to block federal officers' vehicles, to hinder their ability to perform their duties, or especially to hinder those in the process of executing those duties. And the funny thing, just as a side thing, they often don't understand what they're protesting, what they're jumping in on. And they're giving ICE this hard time, yet maybe the person, or not maybe, often the person they're arresting is somebody with horrendous type of crime, rape of a child, sexual assault of a child, or just period rape or sexual assault, as well as other crimes. You don't even know what you're doing most of the time here, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Tyler first. Hey, Tyler, what say you?
Joe, I say we're witnessing unprecedented juxtaposition and disturbing twisted irony. And again, you got to understand, Trump is like Christ in hell. They hate him. So you have a warped and distorted view that simply contradicts reality. Here's the difference, Joe, between people like yourselves who have in-depth understanding and the surface. On the surface, the term a meth dealer, well, he's a meth dealer. When I first moved to Westfield, I met Megan, a 16-year-old girl, and I counseled and fathered and brothered her and taught her to have respect. And she told me she used to tie notes. She would write notes to God and put them on a balloon with helium and release them into the sky, because her dad's meth customers, they would pass her around. She was a sugar baby. And this is just one example. And here's another reality. I counsel and meet a lot of people when I ride my bike around. You know who hates bad, cruddy dealers and rapists? The other good dealers and family people who are affected, shot at, robbed, and undermined. These are degenerate devils They're void of a human soul. They let them loose and out of their country, knowing they could come here during the immigration wave to wreak havoc to blame Trump. I mean, it's a cluster storm of insanity. But we have to look at the license plates of the protesters and see if they're rental cars brought in, because it doesn't make sense. They're protesting the re-security, the re-waving the blanket and the protection of security under which we sleep on, which Trump is removing these really bad people. They don't want that, but they don't protest what's going on with the fake Somali child care and the Waltz food stamp scenario of hundreds of millions that we're getting ripped off on.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, bud. You have to ask yourself, is fact fiction and the warped TV reality? And what's their underlying motivating force? Who wants these degenerates in our society? And there's a quick ending point. Lincoln Riley, that poor, beautiful girl in Georgia, and all these other victims of crime. Ask those people and those families how they feel about sweeping up the garbage off the streets with lawful warrants and sending them away.
They don't, Tyler. Again, the protesters seem to be, to whoever's pulling the puppet master here, just insert these protesters in whatever it is. It seems to just be to cause disruption, to be anti-Trump, anti-current government. It doesn't matter. I mean, the irony is so thick in a lot of these, right? Let's look at all of these pro-Palestinian, anti-Gaza protesters that we put up with, right, for a couple of years here. And let's look at what's going on in Iran. And where the hell are they now? Dead silence over there. So are they just don't know who they're supposed to support? Are they supposed to support the current regime, the rebels? They don't know unless they're told what sign to have and what they're protesting, yet they don't know the intricacies of the protest or what it really means. So I think these are just, the crowds for hire, insert protesters here where we need disruption and we need to cause. And I think a lot of the times, Tyler, it's used to keep us occupied while other things, right, is sleight of hand and watch what's going on. And we're going to talk a little bit about Davos and Trump there. But I think that these protesters are being just they're the epitome of useful idiots, Tyler. They really are. Thank you for the call. I always appreciate it. 508-871-7000. Mark has been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Yeah, post-revolution, Russian Revolution, once the dust had settled and he got firm control of the government, him and his Bolsheviks. He referred to the street agitators that worked for him. Yeah, you just said it. Useful idiots. Yeah. That's what he considered them to be.
Yeah. What happened to them, Mark?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? They would maybe working on a Trans-Siberian Railroad until they dropped dead. Do you think maybe that's where they wound up?
Pretty good chance.
I think that's where a lot of them wound up. Yep. Yeah. If they were anywhere physically fit, they were making big ones or the little ones on the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Like I said, until they either starved to death or dropped dead. That's where they wound up. Now, that being said, the little side note here that might be a little bit relevant. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I found it interesting that 1,500, this is the key word, active duty troops are loaded with their gear and they're on ready, alert, standby to be deployed to where, from what I understand, yet to be determined, but they are active duty troops who are on ready deploy at a moment's notice, deployment to be put on troop transports. They're ready to go at a moment's notice right now, 1,500.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Look at the...
Have you heard that? Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah, I heard that. I've read that there are 1,500 troops that are ready to go. They've been briefed. They know what they're going to do if it's called. And I think we can put two and two together, Mark. I mean, Trump has flirted. We talked about the Insurrection Act. And quite frankly, look, if you're going to use, say, January 6th as the barometer for insurrection, we have passed that point with what's going on tenfold at this point.
May I say something quick?
Sure.
Who investigated Ashley Babbitt's murder? Who investigated it? Was it investigated? Did the perpetrator, the cop that shot that on two-tour United States Air Force veteran, was he excoriated in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, no. And when it happened, I remember we talked about this show. I said the same thing. You know, normally when there's a police officer shooting, don't we know everything about that police officer? In 48 hours, this person's life is all over the place. They're being prosecuted. They're, you know, and rightly so. You know, a police officer.
You remember that incident in Worcester here on what was it, Eureka Street?
Yes.
Between ICE and the WPD had to. If that had happened, and the shooter of this so-called peaceful protester was shot by a Worcester Police Department, you would never hear the end of it.
No, wouldn't. Wouldn't. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the call. Always do. Yeah, you know, Ashley Babbitt. Yeah, I remember when this happened. We talked about this, guys, because. Oh, you know, they were going to bust the door and this and that. Bottom line is police should not be firing into a crowd. Yeah, I mean, this guy, he should have been trained as every other police officer that you fire at a target. You don't fire unless you know what you're firing upon, and you certainly don't fire into crowds of people. And to my knowledge, I don't know exactly. I mean, maybe 508-871-7000. What was the investigation into this? What was the end result of this? No matter what it is, Ashley Babbitt's dead. Nothing's going to change that. But what was the fallout for the officer in charge there? And then we've watched over and over again that Democratic members of the Congress, both houses, chambers, have said so many people died that nobody but her died. There was something, you know, somebody trampled outside of it. But in the actions of January 6th, the only person that died was Ashley Babbitt at the hands of a Capitol police officer. And nobody seems to correct that. That follow-up question never comes, folks. But we have to take our mid-show break here on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Lines are open and available at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 2, folks. Stick with us.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. It's going to be partly sunny and chilly today. I mean, we've got highs in the 20s. We've got a little bit of a wind gust out there, which means wind chills will be stuck in the singles and teens all day long. Tomorrow, similar temperature readings with some increasing clouds. Tomorrow evening, we have the chance for a coating of snow. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Headline news, weather, and local information central to your day on Radio Central 830 WCRN.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
More live and local radio than anywhere on the dial, only on Radio Central 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Second half of the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, where you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Hey, don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388 from Texter 873 in Shrewsbury, who plowed into the station HQ yesterday. I don't know about this. Traniac's incident in Shrewsbury, who plowed into the station headquarters yesterday. Okay. I don't know that story. 508-871-7000. Somebody drove into...
the short of it is that an SUV driven by a known suspect of the Shrewsbury police entered the front of the building and landed in the lobby in the SUV.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound like that would have been a mistake. Thanks, Ted. I appreciate that. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Ken, waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, let's see you.
Good afternoon, Joe. It's quite interesting that Sunday's biggest story, was there even half the news media that even covered it?
On the church thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and very interesting. How did Don Lemon get mixed up in this? I've been seeing clips and references to this Jamoke. I thought he was like just, I don't know, walking the street interviewing people in New York, wasn't he?
That wasn't by accident. This was all planned out.
They usually are, aren't they?
He was gathered with the rioters, and let's call them what they are. They were rioters.
Yeah.
He was part of it, both before, in the middle, and after. Gee, he goes to Keith Ellison, and yeah, there's no problem with that. That's First Amendment. I mean, we got.
Yeah, Keith Ellison. I mean, I think he probably should be I mean, the guy seems to be lacking a lot of workable knowledge of the law. I mean, he constantly seems to be saying things that I mean, your first year law student would be like, what the hell is he talking about? Or doesn't he know? I think he should be boning up on some defense. Isn't he he's going to be at the receiving end of some serious corruption charges, no?
Joe, you're way too nice. So come on. He knows exactly what he's been doing. He's done these stunts for 20 years, starting with Congress. You know when he started his time in Congress? Who also started about that time? From Minnesota? Oh, I'm a fraud, Tim Walz. What a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole Minnesota thing seems very incestuous, doesn't it? They're all just exchanging positions and appointing each other and, but I mean, Massachusetts is pretty corrupt that way as well, as I think a lot of states have that problem. But what happened, I mean, it's just, where are we going to collectively as people start drawing the line to these alleged protests? And I say that because they're not. I mean, protesting is peaceful. You follow the law. You don't cross the threshold into criminal activity. You certainly don't ignore lawful orders or try to evade arrest. You don't throw projectiles at police officers or federal officers. You do not invade churches. That is not peaceful protesting, folks. It's not constitutionally protected. And I think when you cross the line, Ken, into that non-constitutional protected activity, and you've crossed the line into criminal activity, that you need to receive swift justice action on that, because we've got to, as a society, we have to say that's unacceptable. Protesting, absolutely acceptable. Criminal behavior, harming officers, whether they're federal, state, local, doesn't matter, unacceptable. We won't tolerate it. It's not going to tolerate it as a society.
But Joe, that's not what you're going to find if you look up MNICEWATCH, Minnesota Ice Watch. They got their social media website, and guess what they're all about? Why they embrace militancy by any means necessary. And boy, did Renee and Rebecca follow those commands.
Yeah. I saw the clips of these leftists out there with AR-15s now. They're arming themselves. And that's interesting, right? The people who are so anti-Second Amendment now are arming themselves and very pro-Second Amendment and exercising the Second Amendment. But are they, someone's going to get hurt again, right? I mean, we talked about this, I said a long time ago, this is going to end up, and then Renee Good gets shot. And this is, if the left is arming them, there seems to be no self-control with these people, with the way they act and behave. The impulse actions are there, no self-control there. It does concern me, big Second Amendment supporter, absolutely. But aren't these the people who hate the guns and don't know what they're doing, and yet they're arming themselves? I mean, I'm glad they're finally coming around to recognizing the importance of the Second Amendment. But this is not going to end well, Ken.
Did you see the mob activity on the street yesterday?
Pick the country. Which one are you talking about? Iran,
No.
United States?
We're focused on Minneapolis.
All right, yeah. Well, other than the church, I mean, the other stuff is kind of happening all the time, isn't it? I mean, they're always protesting.
It's upgrading. It's upgrading.
Yeah.
Yesterday, they found somebody that they just started pounding on like crazy, right? And then they lifted him up. Oh, he's one of ours. Of course, the police.
Yeah. Again, individuals can be extremely intelligent. Mobs are very stupid and dangerous. Mob mentality is a virus that will infect a group of people. And then that's it. I mean, there's no control. A mob, by definition, is out of control.
Get a load of this, Joe. They circled a man that happened to be driving a white Suburban. And they insisted, you're right. Show us. Prove us you're not right. He was a CNN filmer. And he had to talk them down for 5 minutes. They were going nuts.
So and then you wonder why President Trump is saying, I don't want to, but if I have to, I'll enact the Insurrection Act. And yes, we have 1,500 troops with briefing and orders already ready to go because of this. I mean, regular citizens minding their own business are in danger. And now CNN, technically a member of the press, we know what CNN has become, but this is a photographer, filmographer, cameraman, who has to, prove his innocence to the mob, right? They've decided, whether it's this guy or some citizen, that you're not the person that we hate and we're going to beat up. You got to prove to us that you're one of us, or you're not working against us. This is crazy. And how long are we going to tolerate it? The fact that we're tolerating it is disgusting, that we've allowed this to happen, Ken. But how long is it going to continue? And and I'm sorry, when the president finally enacts and uses the Insurrection Act, it's again, that won't be a pretty situation, but it will get it under control. We saw federal troops get the riots in LA in the 90s under control relatively quickly too. So it will work, it will happen, but it's going to be a very dangerous period, whether it's 48 hours, 24 hours, 72 hours. I don't know what it's going to be, but people are going to end up being hurt, and hurt badly, Ken.
Do you know why he hasn't done the Insurrection Act yet?
It's a big thing. I'm assuming he's going, when he does it, it's a huge thing to do. It shouldn't be taken lightly. But do you have a theory of why?
Yes,
Wade?
absolutely. Look at the polls. The Marxist media has so distorted what happened on January 7th that the people who just go about their lives like, oh, it was terrible, she was killed.
Yeah.
Without finding the full story.
Yeah.
So in that environment, and it's been instituted 30 times. Every other time there was a small outbreak where 80-90% of the public saying, yes, you got to call that down. That's ridiculous. They're not at that point now because our information system is gone kaput, and people haven't found their mind to discover the truth.
Yeah. All right, Ken. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, it's only a matter of time, and unless look, some of these people and politicians have done a little walk back, tried to pull things back a little bit, but I think this is a situation where you've let the monster out, the genie's out of the bottle, and that toothpaste won't go back in the tube, type of thing. And again, mobs take on a life of their own, and the narrative. To your point, the media has not been accurate in its coverage of this and how it's done. They make the leaps, they make these accusations without the facts, and just the fact I told you, one of the writing a letter or something from our own congressman, right, McGovern out of Worcester, comes out and he's using inflammatory type of verbiage in there, calling it a murder, and she was unarmed and murdered. No, she wasn't murdered, and she certainly wasn't unarmed. She had a 5,000-pound SUV vehicle that she used as a weapon. She weaponized that truck and used it to hit and cause injury to somebody. And despite Jacob Fry's stupidity of the analogy to closing a refrigerator door, not the point, you jamoke, it's really not the point. And he had internal bleeding and injuries. It's absolutely disgusting and scary that politicians totally forget their role and purpose. They forget the oath that they take. Again, I got to go back to, if we can make the president of the United States, i.e. the one of the co-equal branches has to be born American, why don't we implement that for all branches of government? I really think that is, and I know the criticism, I get the texts and I get the emails about how bigoted and racist and that is of a position. I think it's just logical and common sense. Ken?
The left, Joe, are fake, fraud, anarchists. And the carnage has just started, unfortunately.
It has. All right, Ken, thank you for the call. Always appreciate it. All right, folks. We're coming up to our third final break here in the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Lines are open and available. What say you on this and any other topics? We'll get into Greenland a little bit in the fourth and final segment. 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Of course, our text line is 617-297-8388. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back on the other side in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so stick with us, folks.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000-watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
End your day on a high note. It's North Star Music. Evenings at 8 on Radio Central WCRN.
Never miss any of your favorite programs on Radio Central WCRN. For on-demand replays of this and other shows, visit WCRNradio.com.
Hi, I'm Lee Gaudette of the Gaudette Insurance Agency, a third-generation family business based in Whitensville with branch office locations in Grafton, Shrewsbury, Westboro, and Southborough. We are a full-service independent agency offering all aspects of insurance to businesses, families, and individuals. We are in the peace of mind business. Call, click, or come in to see us at any of our locations for a free assessment of your insurance needs. Also, listen to Radio Central WCRN every Friday morning at 9:30 for the Gaudette Insurance Show.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back here. Fourth and final segment on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Quick thing, every once in a while this happens, and I want to share it again because I've seen it come across my computer again, this resurfaced Bill Clinton clip on illegal immigration and deportation from 1995. So it's Bill Clinton, May 6th of 95 on the weekly radio address. And it's circulating around because it features Clinton arguing for stricter enforcement against illegal immigration, including speeding deportation for illegal aliens involved in court systems, right? In the address, Clinton frames illegal immigration as costly to taxpayers and unfair to lawful immigrants, outlines four-part enforcement agenda, border control, workplace enforcement, deportations, and limiting certain public benefits. This is from 1995. So 30 years ago, Bill Clinton sounded an awful lot like Donald Trump today. And it was applauded. And it certainly wasn't condemned, and Clinton wasn't called a fascist and dictator and all the other things that Donald Trump has to be on the receiving end of. And he states that illegal aliens charged in court should be removed from the country, whether they're innocent or guilty, his words, of the offense charged. He also emphasizing jail time first when applicable and adding deportation to plea bargains. So this is interesting when this comes up. And because it doesn't sound very, it's not different than basically the Trump administration's position on this. Again, he says, charged with crimes, but who are illegally. Some are guilty and surely some are innocent, but they're all illegal aliens. And whether they're innocent or guilty of the crime they've charged in court, they're still here illegally and they should be sent out of the country. Bill Clinton, 1995, folks. And on that note, we got Davos, right? Again, Trump dominates this Davos, right, every year, every time he goes there. You've got leaders of countries who will go to Davos because Trump's going to be there. Just the way it is with him. But this week in Davos, the most revealing headline isn't really about policy white paper or a new pledge. It's a single word. It's going to be trust. Davos mood, it's tense. It's been tense from day one. But there are bigger crowds, much heavier security there, and leaders and executives talking less about abstract globalization and more about whether the rules of the game are stable enough to plan around. See, Trump's posture toward Europe, especially with this Greenland dispute and the threatened tariffs, has become the dominant conversation. And the trust is the vocabulary people keep returning to. There's a lot of memes circulating around, right? The jokes about, military arriving, France is jumping in, Sweden's jumping in, Germany, NATO nations to protect Greenland from America, which of course is the biggest NATO contributor in military force in NATO. So you figure it out. Plus these nations are seeking to buy military equipment from the United States so they can help Greenland protect it from the United States. Like the other day I went through this, right? I mean, there's a precedence here, right? We bought the U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark in 1917 for 22 or 25 million, I forget. And we've acquired a lot of the United States through purchase. So this isn't a strange thing. Years ago, when Trump kind of made a remark about wanting to buy Greenland, right? It was a joke. It was funny. Ha ha ha. And fast forward, and it's a serious conversation. But when you look at, I know when Trump says strategic defense, it's important to us. It's abstract for a lot of people. But if you do a little research, you can find out. I mean, the biggest nuclear sub-base, right, is Scotland. It's the only place in that whole arena of the Arctic area and North Atlantic that we can dock any of our subs at. in these routes. I mean, Russia and China has been invading that whole space. We don't even know the number of Russian subs in that area. So you've got to look at just how important that is. I talked about this last week between defenses and tracking stations in Alaska, how Greenland would play such a vital role. Again, it's not way over there. It's above us. We share same latitudes, right? Longitudes, I should say, parallel lines. The furthest, part of Greenland is further west than Maine is. And obviously with Venezuela very much cooperating with us, we're starting to create kind of a inverted triangle of protection. And we have bases. We even have a space base in Greenland. So it is vital to us. I don't know. It depends on what media do you read or you look at as far as whether Greenland is for it or against it. You watch some reporters out there talking to citizens walking the street in Greenland. And they're very much, they're not really, I mean, what do? They don't really do anything for us. We'd rather be part of America's economy and protection. And then you've got others marching the street. We're not for sale. Routers reporting ads are hard scaffolding around the world, right? The year's World Economic Forum includes more than 3,000 delegates, 130 countries, dozens of heads of state or government. And this whole agenda has been taken over by Trump's recent moves, particularly this Greenland situation. Trump is expected to arrive there tomorrow to deliver a special address and meet with global CEOs. National security advisors have already discussed Greenland on the sidelines. We can guess that a lot of, like anything else, a lot of side discussions are happening, not on the podium, not in the large meeting rooms, but in private rooms and maybe even off base, as to how this is going to work out and why or how everybody should get in line or where they should come down on this. So why does this matter to America or to an American audience that it didn't vote in Davos? Because of the trust. It's not a cocktail party concept here, folks. It's the operating system of trade and investment. And when government escalates policy uncertainty, which is happening now, right? Tariffs, relations, coercion, threats. No, it doesn't stop or take a halt. Its business doesn't stop. It adapts. And what is that going to look like? What is it going to be in the boardrooms? What language is going to be there? Companies talking or thinking about regionalizing operations. They got supply chains and building redundancy. So tomorrow is going to be extremely interesting with Trump's speech and address. And I'm curious, is Trump going nuclear tomorrow? I mean, is he going to lecture Davos and in the participating countries? He doesn't seem, he doesn't have to worry about it. He doesn't have a re-election campaign. He's done. I know we like to joke about a third term and all, but he knows it. He wouldn't want to do it in his 80s. So this is it. He knows he's got another 3 years, and God forbid 2 of those if he doesn't have the support in Congress. If the Dems take back the House, he'll have to be swatting away impeachment after impeachment. They'll do everything to try to slow this guy down. So he knows he's got 3 years, and maybe latter two of those 3 years, very, very difficult to secure our future, our security. And he's got to move fast. And he has moved faster than any president, of course, in my lifetime. And probably in the history of the presidency, I would think. So the United States had legitimate national interests, especially in those strategic theaters. Again, you really take the time, go learn about what we have, what we need, what is going on in Greenland. Yes, we have bases there, but the shipping routes are also, there's some ice melting. Shipping routes are actually opening up. And just how strategic that is and how dangerous, because there's a straight shot for submarines to get right to, say, New York City and Washington, D.C. If the administration believes Arctic security is under-resourced, and I think they do, it's fair to demand clarity from allies and to negotiate extremely hard on that. A serious alliance isn't charity here. It is a contract of mutual interest. Greenland's too. And economic leverage has to remain grounded in lawful authority and predictable rules. Tariffs, they have become a default instrument, often for these geopolitical disputes. So this is not limited government. This is not stable commerce. This is going to be, we'll see a lot change after tomorrow. We'll have to pay a lot of attention to that, because he's not going to let this Greenland thing go. It has become so important. I mean, we are talking about this. So President Trump's posture toward Europe, especially Greenland dispute and tariff threats, totally dominating the discussion among the attendees. So the mood is a little tense. People are fatigued, even early in the week. Security is extremely heightened, larger crowds than normal. So this is again going to be extremely important. Speech tomorrow and the end result of that. But we got to wrap up the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, this is turned into a podcast. Follow me at Joe Mangi Show on my social media, and check it out, of course, as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So that will wrap it up, folks. Enjoy the rest of the day. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Joe out.